And Tzadik Ches Amud Aleph 98a. The Gemara is now back to describing what the era and what the world looks like in a time preceding the Mashiach's coming. Rabbi Eliezer, V'amar Rabbi Abba. The line starts with the word Eliezer, and the second word is V'amar Rabbi Abba. Is it 9 lines on top of the page? 9 or 10? The first word is Eliezer, and the second word is V'amar. V'amar Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Abba says, Ein lach kates megulum mizeh. You don't find anywhere a end, meaning a clear indication for what the end looks like, greater than the following verse. In other words, the following verse gives such an explicit description that it's almost obvious that when you hit this, you're going to know it's the time for Mashiach's coming. Okay, so what's the verse? The verse says like this: Ba'atam, and you, Har Yisrael, O mountains of Israel, talking about literally the land of Israel. Anafchem titnu, your branches will give forth. Perechem, how you pronounce it? Perechem, and your fruit. Tiso will be carried out. La'am Yisrael, for the people of Israel. Very simply stated, when there's a time when the land of Israel produces fruit and produce in abundance, you know that's close to Mashiach's coming. Sound familiar to anybody?
That's the review of Rosh Linus. That's the famous Chazal.
But wait till a few lines from now, so I don't want to jump too quickly. The Gemara has a few lines from now, which may contradict, which may be a problem for that. So we're going to leave it out.
Like Rashi says exactly, that means as Yikara vacates, it's getting closer.
Look up. We'll see what it says. We'll see what it says soon. So we'll leave it. We're going to leave that out of the equation right now. Where am I? Okay, so that's the first statement. I mean, the land gives lots of fruit. We're in the era close to Mashiach's arrival. Rabbi Eliezer says, Af mizeh, the following verse also is quite a clear indication of what Mashiach's generation looks like. And for those who are what they call futurists, which means people who like to talk about how technology is evolving, this verse is very interesting. It says, as we approach those days, Mashiach's time, literally means like the wages of man won't exist. And the wages for animals won't exist. And for the one who comes and goes, there's no peace from the oppressor. Before you get to the second half of the verse, which says, which the Gemara is going to explain in a moment, about the one who comes and goes and there's no peace because of the oppressor, the main indication Rabbi Eliezer is talking about is the first half of the verse, which says that during the era before Mashiach is coming, there's no wages for man and animal. So, I don't know how this verse is understood in generations past. Viewed as a description, or actually, let me rephrase that. It would have been interpreted that there's such poverty that there's no wages for man and animal. But given the way our world is operating, we can actually say in the reverse. We've already gotten to the point we've eliminated the animal working. We have trucks that do it for us. We have machines that do it for us. So there already is no wages for the animal because you don't need it anymore. No one has animals that do work. If you're raising cattle, it's for eating, not for work. So we've already eliminated that. And for those that, those who follow the developments of technology with automation and deep learning, the big discussion of the coming, like people think about the next century, is what are we going to do with people when machines do all the work? Because we're already at that point. We're already automating away tons of jobs. Most of these factories that used to be filled with people are now filled with machines that do all the work, and they're testing they're testing self-driving trucks, right? Which means things are moving very quickly in a direction where the big question is not going to be how to provide for everybody, because we'll have everything available, which the scarcity is very low. And we're going to get to such a profits like that also, where things are going to be available in abundance, where things are already in abundance. Something can grow in California, and you have it in a day here in Montreal at a very cheap price, essentially, for the amount of work that it would have taken back in the old day for someone to get that apple or that orange. What grows in California? Florida's oranges, whatever it is that they bring from California. If that item was to get to you 100 years ago from California to here, it would be very, very expensive. And today it's relatively very cheap, and takes you 2 clicks on a machine called Amazon, and it brings it to you in no time. So we're coming very close to a time when schar adam, where the wages for man are not available. And the big question is going to become not how to provide for everybody, because we have everything in abundance. The big question is going to become, how do we occupy people? For as long as human history can go, what occupied people's time was their work. And even in the last century or so, where people can make a living with less amount of work, right? You don't have to work the field to make your living. You sit by a computer, send a couple emails during the day, and you get your work done and you make a living. So the question of what are people going to occupy their time with is already a big question, which is why there's the explosion in the last 100 years of mental health issues and doctors that deal with these problems, because we have actual time to think about these things. We have so much time in our hands to actually think about what's the meaning of our life and what's the purpose of a life. Am I happy? Am I not happy? Something that you didn't have time in the past because you were trying to avoid the plague while trying to work your field and feed for your family, and then at whatever age it was all done, and you hoped your kids can survive the next generation. Right? Whereas today we live long lives with plentiful stuff available, and the question becomes how to fill your time, which gets to a different prophecy, not mentioned in the Gemara here, which is that at Mashiach's time, all of our work will be done by others, and we'll have the free time to pursue the knowledge of God.
Rambam's like that.
That's right. That's the end of Rambam's quintessential description of Mashiach is that everything is available in abundance, and all you need to do is spend your time seeking out the truth of Hashem. And we're getting to a place almost by, in air quotation marks, a natural order where that's the reality, where we have everything's in abundance at a relatively cheap price, and it's only getting cheaper, and it's only getting more abundant, and only getting faster, giving you less reason to actually work for your living, and you will have the time to pursue the knowledge of Hashem, which is why we're a more literate generation than ever was in the history of humanity.
Maybe that's why it's called avodah. Work.
And worship.
Worship, work.
Avodah. It's like even davening and learning.
You have no work technically, so you have to do work of spiritual nature.
Yeah,
Spiritual.
That's correct.
We're Amal Peh or
Amal Terah, yeah, that's right.
When you think of the cities of worship, where the city of refuge, they were cities of worship, where the
Yes,
people
they
studied Torah.
Yep. One of the Rosh Tevis for Elul is connected to that pasuk, Ini Liyad Samti Lach, connected to city of refuge. Okay. So, even though it would seem like the classic way of understanding the Gemara is in a negative, in that it's such a down trodden time that you can't find wages for anybody. Right, but as we talked about, the curses also can become blessings, and I see.
You have both. You have the depression, and then you have the.
And I'm saying I see a world where these predictions are happening, but in a positive sense. But also there's the downside where you have people that are bored and need meaning, need something to keep their life, need something to give their life.
What they spend their time in. Yeah.
That's very unfortunate. The person has so much time. That's one could attribute at least this one could assign this as a contributing factor to increasing radicalization, and that people have so much time to look and explore, and unfortunately radical voices make a lot of noise online and attract some of these people who are bored and looking for something to find meaning.
Without matara, without purpose, without meaning.
Yeah, that's why Viktor Frankl's work is so important. That's why his work is so important. Okay, of course, the truth is there should be. We're at a point in the world, and we're coming it to quicker and more quickly. There should be such a movement that brings Torah values in mass to the world. People are, and it's only going to happen more rapidly over the next decade or two, where people are going to be in desperate need of finding meaning, purpose, spirituality, connection, and Torah has it. That's why God gave the Torah to the world, and we're really in a position as Jews to be Or LaGoyim, to be a light to the nations, and that we have the secret. What everybody's looking for, we have it. And in mass, we should be thinking about ways to get these ideas of purpose and connection to God and bringing godliness into this world and the knowledge of God, like the Rambam describes, the world be filled with the knowledge of God, quoting the pasuk in Isaiah. We should be doing this in mass. And as people have more time, they're going to need it more and more.
How to imbue people with machshava, dibur, and maaseh that has meaning all the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Giving people who don't have work a full sense of purpose, because that is the ultimate purpose, to get to know the Creator. That's where we are today, and I think it's expressed in this verse. Okay, so now, sorry?
A lot of Jews now are living a superficial life. And what's so important in their lives? Play cards, watch television,
Yeah.
watch movies,
Go to sleep, wake up, and do it all over
go to
again.
sleep, go to a restaurant on Saturday night.
Entertainment.
Empty life.
Physical
It's empty.
entertainment.
Yeah, distract you until it's over, essentially.
You and I know the good stuff.
Just distract yourself until your life is over and you survived it, right?
Or they wake up.
Or they wake up, yeah. But I mean, what I'm saying is that we have the answer to all of this. We ought to be promoting this in mass. In mass. There's at this point there are thousands. Within a decade you'll have hundreds of thousands. Within 2 decades you'll have millions of people looking for something to do with their lives, looking for meaning, for purpose, for value, because they will not need to go to work. They just won't need to. Millions of people will not need to go to work because it's going to be all automated away. All of it. Even any clerical work is going to be done by a computer that can file your data faster than any human can, with less error than a human can. Delivery, production, it's already going, and it's going to go even faster. Which makes everything cheaper, which means people will live, materialistically speaking, happy lives. Right? A poor person today, someone who's living below the poverty line, lives better than a guy who lived above the poverty line 100 years ago. What's the proof? Even people who have below the poverty line have television with cable, even though they're technically below the poverty line. Right? Keeping aside some mental illness or something that keeps them on the street. But someone who's just a healthy person who's down in their luck, out of a job or whatnot, is living better today in Canada than someone was 100 years ago who was technically speaking wealthy on a farm somewhere in Poland or whatever it was. So that's only going to increase, where what we consider poor is going to be raising higher and higher, and everything's going to become cheaper and cheaper, becoming more available for people. And what people are going to be missing is the secret we have: godliness, a godly life, Torah. So we're really in the right point in history to become the Or LaGoyim, the light into nations that we were destined to be. Anyway, now this leads us to the next line of the Gemara, which analyzes the second half of the verse, which says, to the one who comes and goes, there's no peace, menatzar, from the oppressor. What does it mean for the comer and the goer, the one who comes and goes? There's no peace, menatzar, from the oppressor. Rav says, this means, even scholars, sages, of whom it says, Shalom, that they are associated with peace. The verse reads, Shalom Rav, abundance of peace, for those who love your Torah. Peace is associated with those who study Torah. Even them, ain't Shalom, they won't have any peace. Because of the oppressor. Again, the classic way of reading this is that there's oppression, and therefore even the scholar who's supposed to be bringing peace has oppression. But perhaps, if we're going to read it in this understanding, the way we've been describing it now, where we're a world where everything is available, and you might be able to say that even the scholar who has the antidote for all these people who are looking for meaning in life will become the outcast, because if I can use, I'm projecting onto the Gemara here, so if you don't like it, you don't have to agree.
We had it before, Yorei so people will detest.
That's right. So the Gemara mentioned before that those who fear sin will be scoffed, right?
Yeah, people like amazed.
Yeah, but Tsar usually means oppressor, as in like literal oppression.
Well, no, there'll be the government oppressing because all the governments will turn to Mina, so there'll be actually a persecution against the Jews.
Right, but that's why I said, but there could be persecution in the sense that considered outcasts, because we, along with the meaningful life that the scholars, those who promulgate Torah values, teach the world, are very clear and defined moral boundaries and guidelines. Something which, in a society that's free, open, and happy, or not happy, take that part, but supposedly happy, pursuit of pleasure in that, and that's that happiness in that sense. The idea of having restrictive moral guidelines that actually bring to a true, deeper happiness become laughed at, become scoffed at. And maybe that's what the Gemara means, if I can stretch the translation of the Gemara a bit.
Also, Rashi says interesting. Sorry? They have to work. You have like that.
Yeah, so you can read it that way. Merev Yetzer Hara, from the Yetzer Hara of other people that are oppressed in that
maybe
sense.
even
Or even their own internal Yetzer Hara.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Shmuel says, and this is an interesting thing, and I think it's I alluded to it earlier, and this is it's an amazing thing. Shmuel says, what does this mean? Achayu kolash sha'arim kulam shkulin. All the markets will be equal. What does that mean? This means that back in the day, things that were local were cheap because your neighbor made them. Your neighbor made corn, you made wheat, and you can trade them. Even as the economy got more sophisticated and they had currencies in the form of precious metals, it was more expensive to buy something that came from far away. And it's rather simple. It takes a bold explorer, essentially, to take that stuff, put it on a camel, and bring it all the way to you, at however many hundreds of miles away you are, or thousands of miles away you are, to get that produce, to get that food, to get that thing, and you have to pay that guy, and you have to hope the camel doesn't die, and you have to hope that no rogue thieves take him over in the middle of the desert. So it's very expensive by the time it gets to you. But Shmuel is saying that when Mashiach comes, it's going to be equal price everywhere. So the Florida apple is not that much more expensive, or not more expensive at all in Florida, or Florida orange, is not more expensive in Florida than it is in Canada. And that's something that we mamish see that today. In fact, stuff is cheaper from China than they are from here, notwithstanding the cost of the fuel and the pilot or the boat or what it is, they have to bring it here. So you have Kol ha'sha'arim kulon shkulon, all the markets are equal, all the gates, meaning all ports, are equal in the price. And just because it's coming from a faraway land, it's just as cheap. Now, this is what I'm telling you right now is not my projection onto the Gemara. That's the literal interpretation of the Gemara. So this is not like the previous Gemara where I'm interpreting it in such a way to match our world, and either you take it as a prophecy or not take it as a right prophecy. This is a straight out, that's the way you translate the Gemara. The simple way of reading the Gemara is that the markets will be equal, notwithstanding the fact that produce is coming from far away. That is an undeniably outright prophecy. Someone 2,000 years ago could not imagine a world in a natural order, could not think of a world where something he's buying, where he's living in Israel, and something he's buying from Spain is as expensive or as cheap as something he's buying from Israel itself. There's no way he could imagine that, because he didn't have the technology to even envision such a thing. This is just an outright, straight, explicit prophecy which we are living, literally. It's quite incredible.
Just didn't anticipate Trump's tariffs either.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens.
2020
is coming. We'll see what's happening.
That prophecy.
No, it could be just a negotiating tactic.
Yeah, exactly.
What he's doing is not. What he's doing is not
putting the chips on the poker, and who's going
also, what he's doing is not so important, and I'll tell you why. When you're talking about prophecy that was said 2,000 years ago, you have to look at the graph, not over a slice of 4 years where it's dropping and going up and dropping and going up. You have to look at the graph over a span of 1,000 years where it's going like this. So there are points in which it goes, there are peaks and valleys, but the overall arch is clearly going upward.
Yeah.
So
the direction is inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah. This is why it's so important for people to learn history, else they don't appreciate what you have in perspective. And like people talking about the oppressive nature of reality, and like it's mind-boggling. It's like we're not talking about 1,000 years ago oppressing, we're talking about 50 years ago. It's mind-boggling what people think poor looks like. Even something like that, what people imagine what it means to be impoverished, is so vastly different from what we thought impoverished was 50 years ago that it's just mind-boggling. But anyway.
Rashi Brookhart's the other view as well.
Yeah.
It would be like a great scarcity, and the prices will be very high. Actually, both could be true. Like the 7-year cycle, you have poverty, and then you have recovery. So you
right.
Both going to happen.
Okay.
We shouldn't forget also, as you were saying, both of you actually, 5 billion people now that they're projecting that will not have enough water. The water wars and so on, 5 billion in the future. However, the fact is that Israel has just discovered this new machine that you can put in the desert and you'll have gallons and gallons of water.
Yeah, well, look, the truth is that as far as the technology goes, we're ready for all this stuff. Human race as a species, I don't know that we are. In other words, we need to adjust to the realities of the technology, not the reverse. Meaning, if you took all the resources that exist today and equally distributed amongst all people, there would be enough for everybody.
It's agreed.
Enough food,
enough corruption.
it's greed, corruption. Also, just psychologically, we don't know how to do that yet. We don't know how to do that yet. I'm not promoting socialism or communism. That's not the point I'm making. We've suffered plenty under socialism, communism at all. That's not the point I'm making. I'm talking about the abstract in the sense that the means of production and the technology is available for a world that's free of hunger and free of sickness and free of a lot of this stuff. It's just a question of us as a species being able to evolve to understand it and to be able to live with it well enough. I'm talking about like when you get to the deep stuff that are coming, when it comes to like gene coding, you're talking about editing sickness out of people before they're born, before they're conceived. It's an unbelievable thing. You know, prophets talk about a world without sickness. Today you can imagine it from a scientific perspective and not too distant future where we've deleted sicknesses. We've already done it with a bunch of sicknesses known as polio and whooping cough and whatnot that we've completely deleted using vaccination. We're only getting better at that, not worse at that. And the question is just if we... Classic example is the discovery of the atomic power. Right? So as soon as the discovery of atomic power came around, essentially we have enough power to fuel the entire world. Because atomic power is atomic power. It's virtually infinite because there are atoms everywhere, and if you know how to manipulate them and control them, you can get power for everybody, right? But what happened? It took some 70 years where first we killed a bunch of people using the atom bomb, and now slowly we're kind of figuring out how to use it for nuclear energy in a safe kind of manner. It's getting safer. They have these cylinders now that can protect it, so it's getting safer and safer. So the technology was already there to provide power for vast numbers of people using atomic power, but it took us as a human race 70 years to figure out how to use it in a proper fashion, right? And you just hope that as these new technologies develop, we have less collateral damage than we did when we found the atomic bomb. That's all. You know.
It's very interesting that so few people. My son is just finished. He's finishing a PhD on ethics and the whole idea of ensuring how do you get an ethical world. So he was teaching the 500. Company, the famous 500 in New York, and they were just sending people who didn't care anyways. The thing is, how do you get ethical content? How do you get a sense of derech eretz in the world today, when people are corrupt, when people are egotistical? That's our biggest problem is man not looking after man, but man looking after only himself. And they keep being, why don't we take that dictum, the stranger, the widow, and the orphan, repeat it so many more times than anything else?
The truth is that the big thinkers, the people who are in the real big league thinkers of future are talking about this stuff.
Yeah, they are.
They are talking about this stuff because the people who are who run a lot of these massive companies, the huge technology companies, they see it. They see it coming, and there's already all kinds of discussion online and in the halls of universities about what are we going to do when this big change comes in mass, and their concern is not how we're going to feed people, and not a question of how we're going to keep people healthy.
How do we get people?
Their big question is going to be how we create a moral structure in this world of it's a world we never experienced before. We never experienced where we don't have to work for stuff.
Why do they hate us? Because morality. Don't remind us about morality. Don't tell us about.
Stop reminding us. Yeah.
Of course, we get it from the people who live in it as well, because
even more so.
That's it. This is only one chosen people, so therefore we're a thorn in the side of the church in Islam. That's why so you get it both from the hedonists and the religious people. We get it from both sides,
and our own,
the left and the right, and of course our self-hating Jews we have as well.
All right, we'll stop over here. Tomorrow, Monday, we have a very interesting Gemara. Like a kind of it sounds kind of obscure, and the Rebbe has a beautiful comment that they found in the Rebbe's personal diary as the Rebbe was running away from the Nazis in France. The Rebbe had time and the mind space to sit down, study Torah, think of Torah novelly, and write it down in his diary. And that diary was discovered after the Rebbe passed. And one of the comments there that the Rebbe wrote the night before he escaped Europe, the next morning he went into a boat to go to America. The night before, he sat down to write a comment on the Gemara we're going to learn on Monday. So we'll share that. It'll be recorded. It's a long dissertation. We're going to record it, God willing. All right, have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos, all the very best to you.